difficult question, because I think avant-garde, for me or nowadays, might mean that you do something which is new, or maybe not even new, but it's like offside the mainstream or the usual film language everybody knows. So in that sense, a lot of filmmakers are avant-garde because they do something radical or something outside the common conventional things, which is in the end what I tried to do in my film, not to be avant-garde, but because it was natural for me to use other means that I'm connected to and not care about film convention or film language conventions. There's a lot. I just remembered Lisandro Alonso, for example, an Argentinian filmmaker who is very radical in the sense that he's using very long shots. His films are not very narrative in the way that they tell a proper story from A to B or from the beginning to the end. Although it's funny because he's using film language which is very classical, like very classical focused camera, storytelling in a very basic way, but it's sort of very classical cinema, but nowadays it became avant-garde because film is so, I don't know, you have this MTV style with a lot of fast cuts and fast movements and everything, and he's slowing down the whole thing. He's considered to be very radical, although he's not using very radical means. No? Or like James Benning, for example, who's doing like real-time films actually, and I heard this in a discussion with him. He was saying like it's funny that people think his films are slow because actually they're real-time, so if they say the films are slow, they would say time is slow or something. For me, it was the only way to speak about time, to make the movie like this, which I think is on one hand a very direct way, and on the other hand a very indirect way, because it's very direct in the sense that it's very personal, so it's my direct feelings, ideas, impressions about time. And on the same time it's very indirect or non-direct because it has no clear message and it doesn't teach you what is time, it doesn't explain you what is time, it only shows you different layers or different ideas or different aspects of time which I think are important for me. And my hope is that the audience or the spectators can maybe not on all the ideas, but on some of them they can connect with their own experiences, and like this together we finish this movie, because actually it's only finished in the act of seeing it maybe, and in the act of each spectator having his own ideas, which in the end time is like this. There's no definition of time or no single explanation of time. It's always different aspects and different concepts. So for me the only way to make a movie about time was this way, to mix documentary, fiction, personal stuff, to do in the end an essay film, which is an essay, like the word essay, French word, an attempt to highlight some perspectives and some aspects of time, and like this create sort of a mosaic or a kaleidoscope of different ideas, where the spectator has to think about himself and has to take it forward, and like this also break the linear form of a film, which was an idea which intrigued me a lot, because like in a film I'm obliged to start in the beginning and end in the ending, so it's a very linear form of film, but time is not only linear. So my idea was like by creating incentives for the spectator to follow his own thoughts and maybe even disconnect from the film, go off from the film, then come back at a certain point and keep on thinking about his own things, like this, break the linear movement of the film and do something which is more cyclical or whatever other dimensions of time. That's very nice for me. In the festivals I've been so far, there was always like a lot of people coming to me after the screening, and they told me things that my film reminded them, or scenes they connected with their personal experiences, and that's, for me it's beautiful, because like this I see, okay, the film is working in the way I have thought it to be, that people can connect with my personal ideas and go further to their personal ideas and keep the film ongoing. I think it's always an advantage to have an artistical background, and that's actually why I went to study cinema or film in the Hamburg Fine Arts School, which is not a film school, but it's a fine arts school, and they have a film department, but you don't, like in film school, you have to decide if you do direction or production or camera or whatever, and we do film, and this school understands film as an art, form of art, and so apparently this school influenced me a lot, and also my background, maybe because my father was an art historian, so I grew up more in the world of arts. And probably also because I never learned actually like how do you make a film or something like that, like these stupid rules they teach you in film schools. I never learned that in that way, so I didn't care about these rules, and I made the film automatically or by my instinct or what I felt was necessary. So probably it's a great advantage to disconnect from these so-called rules how to make a film. And also the Helena Wittmann is a great friend of mine. She did the camera work in this film, and she has also the same school as a background and the same perception of film as a form of art. So I'm very happy that, because I think her images contribute a lot to the film, and they're a perfect way of filming time, if you want to say so. Maybe it's what you said, like it's a combination of time and space, and you have the choice sometimes to disconnect time and space, like by mixing up sound and images, or connecting, like in my film The Salt Desert in Bolivia, with my home in Hamburg, or whatever other landscapes and places, and by jumping from one place to another within the time of the film, you can create a lot of combinations of different places and ideas as well. And probably the most interesting films are the ones that, I don't know if the most interesting one, but a lot of films that interest me are ones that disconnect time and space and mix up everything and put it together in another way, or in a new way of approaching things. I think they have a very, very important role, especially for film education of everybody, because like I think on one hand the role is to preserve the patrimony of the cinematographic patrimony of a country or of the world, so to store and recuperate you say, old films, show them to the audience, and on the other hand I think a role is also to care about contemporary cinema, like to show contemporary filmmakers, to include them in the archive, obviously. So in that sense, I think it's very important to show the past and the present, maybe. I think this festival is very amazing, especially in times of crisis, and everybody's talking about lack of money, and to make a festival in times of crisis that focuses on non-commercial films and non-conventional films, avant-garde films in the end, is maybe the best answer you can give to a crisis. Like, fuck the mainstream and concentrate on the really artistically interesting films. So I love this festival. The films I've seen here are very interesting. So it's hard to recommend. I would recommend Pedro Costa, obviously, who is. It's fantastic to have Pedro Costa retrospective here, and to have him here, because he is one of the most interesting filmmakers we have nowadays, definitely. So that's a good recommendation. Pedro Costa. Watch Pedro Costa.